What's going on, everybody? It's Jay here from Nerd Takes, and today I wanted to give you a little bit of news that I just recently found out from the game Multiversus. So, about 2 years ago, Warner Brothers Games and Player First Games released an open beta version of a game that they had been working on called Multiversus. Now, for anyone who may be unfamiliar with the game, it was essentially a multiplayer platform brawler in the style of something similar to Super Smash Bros., for example. When it was released, the game saw some pretty big player numbers and had gamers who are into that genre really excited for a game that could potentially compete with Super Smash Bros. In its own relative way, of course. I don't think anybody was expecting it to surpass Super Smash Bros. By any means, but it did feel like the first good quality game made in that style, as many other companies have tried to recreate their own versions of a multiplayer platform brawler using various different recognizable IPs, and none of them seem to have really found success in doing so. Unfortunately for Multiverses, due to some fairly significant issues with the game in terms of gameplay and online matchmaking, as well as some just generally annoying ones like the amount of time one would have to put in order to grind out the battle pass, the game very quickly lost its player base and faded to the background of the gaming scene. This would eventually lead the developers to go the very interesting route of taking the game completely offline and out of rotation so that they could then work on these fixes and issues in order to try to create a better product by the time they were ready to fully launch the game. Now, that was about a year ago, and honestly, things have been really quiet on the game since, which made it hard to tell what state the game was actually in or whether or not they would actually be finishing it and releasing it. But to my surprise, while I was scrolling through YouTube the other day, I stumbled across a couple videos that shed some light on the current status of the game. The first was a video from about a month ago where the game director gave us an announcement that the game is actually ready for release later this month on May 28th, and that they've essentially started from scratch in rebuilding the game to both look and perform better than the beta did. For example, they've moved over to the Unreal 5 engine to improve the look of the characters and the game overall, as well as rebuilding the netcode so that the game can perform much better online for players. And the looks that we get at the gameplay do look really nice, in my opinion. So I was happy to hear that the radio silence on their end for the last year meant that they were working really hard to improve the game before launch. And then the other bit of news that we got, which was actually what really piqued my interest and got me to look further into the status of the game, was that they released a trailer for the new character that they're adding, which is none other than the Joker. Now, I'm a huge Batman fan, so this was obviously something that I like to see. I will say there's already quite a few DC characters in the game, so seeing as they basically have the rights to all Warner Brothers properties, I would certainly like to see other characters from other IPs make their way into the game, but all the same, I am pretty happy to see the Joker in this. The look they chose to go with is very similar to the version of him from Batman the Animated Series, which is one of my favorite versions of the character. And on top of that, he is going to be voiced by Mark Hamill, who I'm not necessarily a fan of as a person, but his work voicing the Joker is iconic. I have to be honest and give credit where it's due. The trailer doesn't really show much in terms of gameplay, but it was a cool little cinematic way to introduce him as a playable character. As far as I'm aware, this is about as much as they've told us about the launch of this full version of the game, which again is May 28th. And although it wasn't much information, it was enough to get me interested in the release and playing this game once it's made available. I am hoping the game is good and that it has longevity because I do think there is a lot of potential for a multiplayer platform brawler like this, especially given all the characters they have the rights to who could make an appearance in the game. But in today's age of gaming, unfortunately, we really do need to see things play out before we can get too invested in them. But here's to hoping the game is good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back again soon.